beautiful dancer, and welcome for another episode of A Cup of Tea, which is our weekly conversation about soulful and creative fusion belly dance. I'm Lamia Barbara, your host, and I'm so grateful that you're here because today I have a very special guest. Manca Pavli is an international touring dance artist based in Ljubljana, Slovenia, where she runs her own dance and yoga school and she directs her own dance company. She has been the teaching assistant of Rachel Bryce for several years in Costa Rica, and she's also Fat Chance Belly Dance Sister Studio, a level 2 Suhaila certified, and a yoga enthusiast and lover and teacher. She's the director of Amaya Dance Company and Fusion Bliss Festival in Ljubljana. And she's also a researcher in anthropology in the Department of Anthropology. Manca Pavli is such an inspiration for a lot of us in the community, and I'm very happy to share with you this conversation about her life in dance, how dance happened in her life, and especially belly dance and fusion belly dance, and her take on what is tribal fusion and how we can define this classical dance style. And I loved how she will share with you her creative process, how she takes inspiration for her own beautiful creations and choreographies, and what she sees ahead for this dance style. So have your cup of tea or coffee ready and enjoy. Thank you for
Sweet.
having the cup of tea, but I didn't have the time to take mine, so I'm going to pretend I have mine.
We're gonna say
So thank
cheers with
you.
your invisible cup.
Yes, cheers with my invisible cup. And thank you so much, Mansa, for joining this conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy I get to see your face and talk to you. I mean, I'm your big fan, and we've known each other for forever, and it was such a joy when we first met. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about how long ago that was. But yeah.
I'm gonna say that it was 2000, it was 2010 or 11, all
Mm.
right?
No, oh God, where are my crutches? Oh, I'm so sweet. Oh,
uh,
good times, man. Good times.
Good times, but I owe you part of my journey so much. I owe it to you because you were one of my first teachers. You directed the company I was in. I was working with just for a couple of dates, with the Maya. And for me, it was just such a booster in my performance life and in my professional career as a dancer. So I owe a lot to you, Mansa. And you're always a never ending inspiration. I'm not going to say just that because I'm recording it. I always tell everyone. So that's the truth.
Thank you. And I owe my life to all of the dedicated dancers who were ever in Amaya. Whoever was ever in Amaya knows that we worked really hard. We worked so hard. So all my respect to you as a company member. Was just like, yeah. What we
Crazy.
Oh my God.
I still remember the working hours, like the all the trainings and all the rehearsals. It was like never ending, and wow, such a beautiful experience though, and such an
Yeah,
amazing show.
also traumatizing, let's be honest. I think I traumatized a lot of people as well by being obsessed with this and just having ridiculous standards that no one can achieve. So, yeah, also very sorry to anyone who's ever had to endure that.
Very sorry for being so amazing.
No, amazing comes with the other side of being, yeah, overly perfectionist and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, but what I see of you, and year by year, I see really the high quality that you are giving. It's like you give it all. So I know you're a perfectionist. I know I am too. And I know this comes in our ways, and we feel like, it's depleting us every time, but at the same time, we keep the standards so high and so amazing in such a way that it sends the standards also for a lot of us in the community and for the art form itself. So it's an act of service also to the art form.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's the heart behind it, is like what you said perfectly, an act of service to the community and to the art form. I feel like when I started, there was no production like that except Suhela's and Belly Dance Superstars. And I really just wanted people to see how amazing this dance can be, and then, taking it to another level with professional dancers. So I think we did a pretty good job, especially regarding the budgets we had and the time we had. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you keep doing an amazing job. An amazing job. I see your videos and your productions, and you're working on several things one at a time. And at the same time, you're like juggling everything. And kudos to you. Like seriously.
Thank you. It means a lot. Yeah, we do our best. And now I'm super happy that I already have level 4 class. That's like, I don't even see it in other dance forms. I don't see people teaching, level 1 modern dance, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 levels and I'm really happy. So then in my level 4, which is like the Pro Amaya Collective, I get to really work on stuff that's hard for me, that makes my brain like broken and crazy. And yeah, that's really, really fun.
So beautiful. So tell me how your story with dance started. I would love to know, how did you start dance in your life, and specifically belly dance and fusion? How did this happen to you?
I did a bit of jazz ballet when I was a kid, but then I stopped dancing until I was a teenager. Actually, I was 17 when I started belly dance, which is pretty late, I guess, for someone who goes professional. Well, not in belly dance though. So I remember taking the first classes were in Oriental classical belly dance, and I remember I liked it, but I wasn't like obsessed with it. And then I saw a video of Rachel Bryce soon after I started. I saw her video online and I just remember thinking, this is belly dance. Like for me, that's what I felt like. It's like, this is belly dance. And I didn't even know it was a different style. I didn't know it was tribal fusion. I didn't know who Rachel was. I knew nothing. I was a baby. So, and then, there was no YouTube. It was online. Everything was scattered all over the place. You had to really search and find videos at that time. So then I saw her and I was really lucky. She came to Vienna, which is 5 hours away from where I live, which is the closest she ever got to Slovenia. A couple months after I started belly dancing. So I didn't have my driver's lessons at the time, so I had to ask my parents, drive me to Vienna. I have to go see the show, because she was touring with the belly dance superstars when they were still not famous, and she was not famous at all. So my family took me, I think it was Friday, they took me to the show. It was in a tiny jazz club, Birdland, and it was such an intimate, beautiful show. And I remember arriving there to the venue and they had flyers for workshops. And I was like, I've searched all over the internet if they're going to have workshops. And I was like, oh my God, they have workshops. And they were the next day. And we were leaving after the show. So I totally nagged my family, and my parents had to take me back to Vienna the next day so I could take workshops with Rachel, Jelena. Everyone was teaching, Petit Jamila, who else? Uh, yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, Rachel's workshops. It was like 7 people in Rachel Bryce's
Oh my
workshop.
God.
And then I was sitting with her during the break and we were talking about, she explained to me what Etsy was, no, not Etsy, sorry, what eBay was.
eBay, right?
Like, this is where we get our stuff and this is how I practice. And I practice 5 hours a day. And I was like, okay. I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay. She was like a god for me at that point, you know. I looked at
Yeah.
her as a god figure, and then I decided I'm gonna practice like she does. And I didn't, because no one is that crazy to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and practice for 5 hours. So then I spent next, I guess, 10 years blaming myself for not getting up at 5 o'clock, but only getting up at 7 or 8, and then practicing for only 4 hours instead of five, you know? Yeah, you know what?
Come
Last
on.
person I am. Perfect with the Catholic guilt.
Shining.
That was the beginning. And then really fast, I started teaching a year after I started learning belly dance because my teacher had a baby and she asked me to substitute. And then soon after, it was like really soon, I don't even know, maybe 2 years, Rachel asked me to, well, she wanted me in the belly dance superstars. But then she asked me if I could assist her in Costa Rica, and then it just all started rolling. And then I finally posted something online, and then people started inviting me to different countries to teach, to festivals to teach. And then, yeah, I spent a big chunk of my career, which is now 21 years. I'm so old. Oh, my crutches. I spent a big chunk of my career touring internationally. Yeah,
It's amazing. That's so amazing. And blah, 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 you're here.
voila.
And
Old,
voila. It doesn't look like you're old at all.
the baby face.
Yeah, such a incredible. The more I talk with people I admire in the community through these interviews, the more I see how Rachel was basically like game changer, life changer for so many of us, so many of us.
Definitely. And I
Yeah,
think she was such a huge inspiration as well because she's a really good person, just like a really, really good person. And I love how she was such a huge influence because she didn't just teach us the technique, the dance, the art part. She taught us, I think, about the morals of the dance, how to respect your teachers, how to always say what you learned from who, and I don't know. She was just really highly compassionate as well and emotionally intelligent, um, and had really high standards for verbal communication. I don't know. And just super kind. Like I remember the times where she was completely overwhelmed by fame and she still somehow managed to be kind to people, always, everywhere, even though I know she was, yeah, overwhelmed and it must have been really, really hard to be that famous. But yeah, she was always
yeah,
incredibly kind.
yeah. We love you, Rachel. If you ever get to watch this, love you so much.
From everywhere.
Always. Yeah, and um, it's so beautiful that you started with belly dance and then you moved just soon after into fusion. But let's try now. This is one of my favorite questions. Let's try now to define, if you have like a way to define what is fusion and how it differentiate from belly dance, and what are the key elements of fusion belly dance.
Awesome. Okay, that's a really good question. It's a pretty complicated question as well. So I don't know. I hate being fluffy, and I am not really happy with the world of tribal fusion belly dance that avoids the word tribal right now. So I'm an anthropologist by profession, and cultural appropriation definitely has its place, but I really don't believe it has a place in tribal fusion. So
Mm.
um because if we say that only the people who do belly dance, or for example, if a lady from Morocco claims that she has cultural, um, that this is her dance form and that we've taken her dance form, it means basically, okay, then the Moroccan people own this dance and they're the ones who are good at it, which is inherently racist. That would
Mm,
mean that me as a Slovenian, I own Slovenian dance and I get to teach it everywhere I go. And anyone else doing Slovenian dance is in the wrong, you know? And
mm,
I don't feel that's the truth at all. I have nothing to do with Slovenian folk or any kind of Slovenian dance, you know? I don't know it. I've never danced it. And I have no right to represent Slovenian dance outside of my country. So I
mhm,
think that's very racist. I don't think it's really good for the dance form as well. I feel like now that we've taken tribal out of it, and some people like Carolina has taken the names Egyptian, Arabic out of it, I think it's even separating the dance form even further away from the inspirations that brought us here. Cultures, and also we have this term in anthropology, it's called invented traditions, which
oh,
goes to say that no traditions are really traditions. All traditions are invented. Like, what is traditional really? Everything that's happening that is supposedly traditional is specific to a time and place when and where it's being done. And that doesn't mean that that's a stable, stagnant thing that's not changing. Everything is fluid. All traditions, all cultural expressions of dance and costuming and everything are changing, are constantly evolving. So I would be very careful about, yeah, like, I mean, I see where it comes from. It comes from Americans feeling the guilt, which appropriately it's there, of, abusing the tribal communities in America and the indigenous people in America, and then, taking the name tribal and blah, blah. Yes, it has its problems. Definitely, the word tribal has its problems, but we have used it since the beginning of this dance form to denote, to mean something that is ours, something that we made as a mix of different styles. And I think all of the teachers were actually all of the time very clear about where it's coming from, who they got it from. Well, especially my teachers like Rachel, and I think even Suhaila, talks about what she got from Jamila. Jamila had
yeah, a lot.
went back to Maya, a dancer who was coming from blah blah blah, right? So I don't know. I don't think we appropriated it. We didn't steal it. We've really given a lot of appreciation back to the cultures that we're taking this inspiration from. So I don't feel like we're, yeah, we're abusing them or using their cultural um, expressions in a way that's not respectful. So I would keep the name tribal and I would keep the name fusion. I went into a different direction that you asked me, but what's tribal fusion? So
Yeah, but I like it. I love that you started from the very name because name, as we know, have power, and how we name something, it's just, creating a different reality. Because what I felt before the pandemic and before all of this tribal questioning happened is that I had a structured dance form that was evolving, and then at some point we have this fracture, and now there is this, very fragmented realities. And me too, I'm calling it fusion belly dance, but then depending on who I'm talking to, it will mean different things to different people. While before, when I was just calling it tribal fusion, it was just that one thing. So I understand your point of view and what you're saying. Like, we are so scattered now with all the different names, and why avoiding and negating, if there's an English word, like saying it doesn't even exist, our heritage, like our, where are we coming from?
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
understand it. It's beautiful.
Hmm. And there's another problem which I find with the switch from tribal to Fatchan's belly dance, because the tribal for me means the connection with American tribal style as taught by Carolina Naricchio and Fatchan's belly dance. Now, the Fatchan's belly dance name in Europe doesn't translate well. For us, people don't understand fat chance. They don't know it
No.
means a good chance. They just know it means fat. So I mean, it's not like I have anything against fat people. I'm not fat phobic or anything. It's just I don't know. It doesn't denote the essence of what we're doing as much as tribal did, you know, because tribal really for me connected also that we're doing this in a tribe, we're doing this in a group, and the group has a structured improvisation going on. And for me, that was like perfect. And also the tribal aesthetic of it, which Jamila brought. So yeah, I think I'm gonna stick to tribal fusion. Anyways, let me answer your question, how it really was, what I think it is. So I think, as I said just now, it comes from American tribal, and that's one part of it. It has the influence of American tribal style, which means, let's be very specific, shall we? Let's not talk about fluffy stuff. What does that mean? It means many times we take the arm work, which is very flamenco inspired, so really high lifted elbows, high lifted posture. I think that part of tribal fusion is the classical part of tribal
Yeah.
fusion. I think the more I look at my art form, the more I perceive it as almost a classical art form, because there's the expressive, modern dance stuff, which is all about self-expression. And I'm not against it. I love self-expressing, but I love self-expressing in other ways. And my art form does not, how I do tribal fusion, doesn't have so much of that, of the self-expression through the movement. So my dance form in tribal fusion is very classical in the sense that elbows are lifted and the movement vocabulary has um, a very clear, defined technique, which is very focused on the muscular execution of movements. So it's different from belly dance because belly dance would often use the skeleton and the head waving to side, for example. So everything is more connected when it comes to physical execution of the isolations, whereas in tribal fusion, they really are isolated, meaning that only one part of the movement is working, only shoulder is moving, and nothing else really is responding to that isolated movement. So that would be a very, I think, technical overview. And of course, the isolations come from belly dance, the basic isolations. Mm, and then the fusion part is you can bring whatever components out of other dance styles that you want. Oh, sorry, I missed one. Indian dance. I think Rachel, because she studied Kathak, I think, or was
Yeah.
it? I think it was Kathak, right?
Yeah, she did, I think, both like Kathak and Odissi when she was studying dance anthropology, dance
Yeah,
ethnology. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. So because of that, we have a strong influence of that as well. So a lot of the poses we're doing that have like this side leaning stuff, this is all Indian dance. Now, more and more, there's a lot of finger stuff that is happening that comes from Indian dance, which is really beautiful. So I think that is a very strong influence as well. And then the fusion part, we can take whatever from wherever, and especially the music. The music, I think what Jill Parker did, we were just talking to my students yesterday about it, about the moment where Jill Parker came out for the first time as Ultra Gypsy when she separated from Fat Chance, and she came out, armpit hair and modern music and different costuming from ATS. And I think it was Rachel who said they were sitting there and they said, can they do that? Can she do that? There was this moment, ooh, this is out there, to do and use modern music, electronic music, any kind of music that we like. And I think that's the fusion part, as well as changing movements to influences that come. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how the more, again, I talk with inspiring dancers and teachers, the more this concept of classical tribal fusion pops up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing this in different forms. Like Antonella Shaina, you told me you have the tribal fusion, then you have the fusion belly dance. She was separating these two. And then I was talking with Camra, and he told me you have the core fusion, which was like this classical way. And then Drake Von Trapp was telling me the fusion belly dance and the hybrid belly dance. You know, we're trying to find names
Yeah.
just to acknowledge that there is a classical form, and it has its own rules, its own heritage. Again, as you said, Fanchance belly dance, American tribal style, and all of the precise muscular isolations. I think they come a lot from Suheila, because she was doing a lot of fusion with locking in her belly dance and with the hip hop. A lot of influences were there. So yeah, I'm excited actually, because I feel that there is this new awakening around the tribal fusion, or how do we want to call it, fusion belly dance, like core structure, like classical form, because you see that under the umbrella term there's such a wide variety, and sometimes we feel kind of lost, like then what, it's fusion, but just having that core is like keeping you on track. So we're all together gather around this one big like mother core of technique and influences. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. And I think at a certain point, it's like we don't even need to hold so strongly to all of these names, because I feel like right now, especially, it's like we have so much information of so many dancers coming in and doing their own thing, and they're all doing their own thing. And it's like, it's just her. That's her style. That's her style. That's their style. You know, it doesn't matter. At a certain point, yeah, they're just expressions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. um, but that's also the beauty of it, the space that this community holds for so many shades and
Mhm.
so many possibilities that are within the style. Then, you know, you can have so many shades of the same color or different colors, and it's all within the style. So I think it's also the beauty of it somehow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my next question for you would be, um, where, when you want to create a piece, I think I'm very curious about knowing this from you. When you want to create a piece, a choreography, or a costume, or whatever is your creative process going on, what are your main sources of inspiration, and how would you, if you have like a definition of your creative process, like, you know, there are people who are very music driven, or some other ways, do you have like a process, and how this works for you?
Ooh, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. It's always fun to go into other people's creative processes, but I'm definitely a music driven person. I am very highly driven by music. Now, when I work with a My Dance company, which when it's an international project, I am very inspired as well by scenography, but by what we can do in a space of a theater. Like, how can we work in a way that's different, like what we had in the piece that was choreographed by Olga Meos in Isplesana, one of the Amaya Dance Company shows. We had this big walls which were covered with material, and then the lights were in, so then you could, you know, turn on those lights and only the walls would be visible, and then playing with the shades and shapes surrounding that. And then we had pieces of material hanging off of the ceiling that we played with, representing the jail cells that represented actually if we go back to the message of the show, it was about femininity and how we have these rules, how we're supposed to behave since we grow up, how we construct them, and then they are put into this segmented pieces of material that represented a jail cell. How do you call them in English? I don't know.
Yeah, a cell, I think.
Oh,
Oh
what
no,
they
cell is cellula. A jail, prison.
walls of the cell are usually out of these metal bars. There we go.
Bars.
Bars.
Yeah.
Ah, so metal bars, they represented the metal bars, and then we moved that around in the sense of like, even though we have these limitations, we can always move them around and create beauty inside of them. This is, I think, what women are really good at. Like we take the limitation and still create something beautiful out of it somehow. Um, and then the second part of the show was transcendental. So then we worked also on connecting with other um, artists like aerials, people hanging from the ceiling. Um, so yeah, that's a big part. Is like for me when I create theater shows with professionals, how can we use the space in a different way to bring out the message? And for me, I'm really inspired by the visual element of this dance and how we can visually make beauty. And I think that's, yeah, this I keep coming back to that. It's like that maybe my art form is not about self-expressing and all that because I don't think I'm that important. I think like my personality is just another human personality. We've seen a bunch of them. And then in dance, when I create beauty, it's like that's something worth looking at when we're together and we create something beautiful. Isn't that like much more impressive and worthy of watching than just my own self-expression? I don't know. I just really am called by this creating beauty with shapes, with movements, with human bodies, with scenography, with lights. Yeah, it's just a really cool playground, the theater. So, music, creating beauty. And then this year, I've been getting a bit, I don't know if it's political, but it's like social problematics that I'm trying to bring out. So, for example, right now I'm making a piece which was inspired by the music, but it coincided with what's happening in my life right now, which is I'm very involved in the tantric community, and there's a lot of abuse in the tantric community. And I'm very, um, I don't want to say spiritual, but I love spirituality. But I'm having a problem with the spiritual community because there's, again, a lot of abuse of the world spiritual. And we're making a piece with my level 3 group right now, which is focused, which is, there's a song by Apache called Catch Me. And even the video is a homage to gurus in cults. Well, not homage to,
Hmm.
but trying to bring light to this world where the gurus have such a big important role, where they abuse people. And we're making a piece that wants to bring that out. So we're going to have actually a bunch of real statements by fake gurus who said awful things like drink my holy cum, and yeah, just a lot of real sentences from real people who presented as gurus but are not. And we're going to have that in the background as a beginning, and then dancing to this amazing, incredible song. So, yeah, it's different. It's different every time, of course. It always depends. But music, beauty, political.
That's the perfect triad, like the perfect tripod for a dance to be done. And it just made me think about uh, this whole abuse revelations which are happening in the last years, also in the yoga community. So it's huge. It's like a veil, and was covering all up, and now we have so many revelations around it, and that's very cool that you're doing something about it, like a dance about it, and I hope I can see that online soon. That you're gonna post it. I would be happy
Yeah,
to see that.
for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be online.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm gonna jump to the next question, which is, what do you see ahead in this dance style? And if you have any suggestion or advices for the community.
Ooh, what yeah ahead? I see a lot of empowerment. I just feel like this dance is so empowering to women. And I feel like it really is bringing also a world into dance that is more aware and conscious of people's boundaries and respects people's abilities and non-abilities more than other classical dance forms like ballet. Yeah, like talking to ex ballerinas, and some of them come to my classes. It's like just coming out of these highly competitive worlds where all that counts is just being skinny and being competitive and being the best. And I feel like in this tribal fusion world, we really try to embrace and hug everyone who comes, and everyone is worthy, and no body is bad body. All bodies are welcome. And also, all kinds of abilities are welcome, you know?
Yeah,
I hope I'm transmitting that, but like, I feel like in my level one, it's like, yes, 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 everyone can do it, you know? Everyone. It doesn't matter if you haven't had your musical training or your body hasn't trained since you were young. It doesn't matter. Like, you can show up to this dance form and you are welcomed. And yeah, you can do it. So I feel like there's a lot of that. I feel like there's a lot of empowerment. There's a lot of reclaiming of sexuality and sensuality and feminine power. Yeah, I think that's waving together very beautifully for a lot of dancers. Um, yeah. I think that's it. I think that's it. But
invisible cheers to that.
yeah. I'm definitely more now focused. I'm not sure if it's because I'm overwhelmed with work. I feel like I'm always behind. People are like, yeah, planning stuff years ahead. I'm like, oh, I got all the stuff right now. I fall so into stuff I'm doing
I
right
know.
now.
Yeah, me too. I'm always like that. So
Go
it's
too
just
much.
a regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really loved everything you said about this reclaiming of power, and especially let's call it feminine power, because also nowadays there is a lot of discussion what is masculine, what is feminine, and it's a huge other topic. But just for now, let's call it feminine. And what I think it would be feminine is really the that part of us which is connected with our body and our sensuality, and that's how we also reconnect with our sexuality. So everything is really connected, and the way just of how we move our bodies in this dance form, it's the posture and the form which is creating the reality inside of you. So just having that beautiful empowered posture sinking into slow and juicy serpentine movements, it creates a shift like in your whole inner world, and that's the power of it, I think.
I think it's really important for mental health, just the whole posture, like of being very open. Like even in monkeys, when they're like this, it's a sign of, they've been overpowered by another primate. So they go into depressive Dance. And this is what we're doing all day on our computers. So whenever we're dancing with our chest super high open, that's like the best thing you can do for your mental health. I feel like, yeah, change your thoughts, change your thoughts. Well, that's just really hard. It's so much easier to just open your body and walk straight, and then your mind just starts going, woo, life is good. I am powerful. I can change things. I can do stuff. I can take care of myself. And, and then everything starts unraveling. So I think this connection with mental health is actually really, really good as well. I had a project that I wanted to take, but it was just too much at a certain point. So I was working with a doctor as well, and she was the test bunny because she wanted to be. I had this thought that whenever we sit up straight and we eat with a straight open heart, I feel like it's much better for us. So then she was the test bunny and she ate with a straight back and open heart for 30 days, and she lost a bunch of weight, and her relationship to food completely changed. So she was like really pushing it, like, we should do this project, we should, get some funding and make it a big thing, but yeah,
Wow.
through. But yeah, I think it's really cool how just changing our bodies can help our mental world. And that's going to be
Yeah.
the big thing, I think, coming up. It's going to be a whole mental health crisis. I mean, it's already here, but I don't feel like it's going to get less and less, except with if we step out of capitalism and, the billionaires running the world soon. So
Yes, exactly, exactly. So the cure is here. Embodiment. Get into your body and
Mm,
really live your life from a body standpoint.
yeah,
Full power. It changes everything.
yeah.
So, yes. Thank you so much, Mansa. I loved this conversation and to get to know you a little bit more and to get into your creative brain. It's always beautiful. So, thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. I love you so much. And I love watching just your hands when you talk, whatever you do, like your Indian dance arms, hands are just like so beautiful. So yeah. Thank you.
Also, my Sicilian way of talking, which is always about mudra somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
All right.
Sicilian mudras. I love it.
Yes, there was actually a book I saw once. It was so beautiful. I'm gonna say that as a like an ending. It was a book about Sicilian mudras. I cannot find it anywhere. So if every anyone who ever watched a book like this find it, I would love to see that back again. It was with mudras from, like Sicily and all of these, and like,
Oh,
all of the gestures that we have with the translation in English, Japanese, French, and Spanish. It was just beautiful. So,
I want that book as well. So here's a call to our community. Please, if anyone. Yeah, because I want to learn how to speak Italian, ma non solo l'italiano come like a language, but the whole arm, hand, because that's not on Duolingo. And
no, no, it's like the essence. Thank you so much for joining this conversation. If you loved this video and would love to see more, I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel because every week I share with you more videos, tutorials, and inspirations for your dance journey. And if you would love to connect with me and talk about the subjects and topics of this video or any other thing, I would love to connect with you. I would love to chat with you. So send me a DM on Instagram and let's chat soon. See you next week and thank you again.